The following program is a SUTV student production. The views expressed are not necessarily those of Salisbury University, the University System of Maryland, its regents, administration, officers, employees, or representatives.
Mr. Ireton, thank you so much for joining us. Why are you running for Congress?
Oh, really? Right, cut right to the point. Okay. First off, the reason that I ran in every election in the last 16 years in Salisbury and won all four of them is ultimately, in the end, I think I can do a better job than the guy who's in the office right now.
So what makes you think you can win? This guy has been in office. He's the incumbent. He's won multiple elections.
Right.
Why do you think you can succeed where others have failed?
I think that there are a lot of moons that have to align, and I'm working very hard, and the Republicans are working very hard to get their part of this equation ready. First off, historically, people who live on the Eastern Shore will vote for somebody from the Eastern Shore, whether or not they're a Democrat or Republican. That helps. It's a presidential election year. Democratic turnout is going to be somewhere between 68% and 78%. I'd like to move that number on the Eastern Shore and in Maryland's 1st District over in the North 40, maybe even up closer to 80%. The other thing that's happening is that there are now 6 people running against Mr. Harris. 3 on the Republican side, 1 Libertarian, and 2 Democrats. Usually, if somebody is a popular, entrenched incumbent, you don't have 7 people running against you. So somebody's starting to take notice that this guy isn't doing his job. And the other thing really that lines up with it is that it's very easy to take his record and pound him with a 2x4 with it because it's that bad. And secondly, there will be a Libertarian candidate in the race. Conceivably, someone could win this race with less than 50% of the vote.
Talk to me about that record that it seems like you're ready to pound. We heard your announcement speech in Crisfield, and
Right.
talk about that a little bit. What things do you say you would have done differently if you'd have been in office, and how would you have voted differently than Mr. Harris?
I would, if I was sitting in front of a group of SU students, I would say, do you vote for or against the Violence Against Women Act? I mean, really, that's a no-brainer. That's something that's incredibly important to the personal lives, the family lives of the women in this country, and he voted against it. He voted against the Farm Bill, voted against changes to No Child Left Behind, voted against hurricane relief when Crisfield, just 45 miles south of the university, was underwater during Hurricane Sandy. Those things are unconscionable. Whether or not the district, the politics of the district agree with that or not, someone needs to say those things out loud. That this is somebody who is going to Washington to make a point and not to make a difference. My record here is one of hyper-local, looking at the issues right down where the rubber meets the road, right down on the street. I believe we can do that. I believe a congressman can do that. I believe a congressman can be worried about downtown Pocomoke. They can be worried about oyster spats in the Tread Avon River in Easton, the hospital near Washington College that may be closing soon, the heroin epidemic that's sweeping the Eastern Shore and the other parts of the state of Maryland, the number of people who have health insurance now that didn't have it before. All those things, I joke with my family, I can't make this stuff up. This is the stuff this guy's against. So I'm excited about having the opportunity to win the Democratic primary and be the Democratic nominee for the U.S. House of Representatives in Maryland's 1st Congressional District.
While you were mayor, you frequently seemed to be flirting with the idea of running for higher office. What made you say yes? What made you decide to run now?
Yeah, flirted with a lot of things over the course of my life, Eli. Joking aside, I've lived here my entire life, and I've been involved in politics in one way, shape, or form since I was 10. I'm not going to give you the year because then you'll do the math and you'll be able to tell your listeners and viewers how old I am, so I'll just not do that. But I've been involved with it for a very long time in all parts of the shore. So Salisbury, remember, is the largest city in the 1st Congressional District. Wycomico County is the 2nd largest county. Cecil County is the largest county in the district. So I don't have any trouble traveling. I don't have any trouble going other places. I certainly don't have any trouble, walking into a coffee shop in Cecilton or walking into the ice cream parlor that's in downtown Tawnytown and feeling like I can connect with people. That's not ever been a problem for me. What is truly amazing about it is when you grow up here, and many of your viewers are not from the Eastern Shore. When you grow up here, you're kind of told that it's completely different when you go over the bridge into Anne Arundel County, and it's completely different when you go up around Chesapeake City into Cecil County. But it's not in the 1st District. Tawnytown and Cecilton and Oil City all look like Snow Hill and Girdletree and Pocomoke, except they have hills. Except it's just a higher elevation and they have hills. So being mayor of Salisbury is an excellent starting point for me, because nothing gets more rough and tumble than Salisbury politics. So my skin is now thick after all these years. And the issues that people face are the same. Income equality, not able to get a job, the heroin epidemic, drug addiction, hurting people. And then when you get out of Salisbury and into the rural areas, the issue of the family farm and the sustainability of the farm as it relates to the Chesapeake Bay. All of those things are the same everywhere in the 1st Congressional District. It's 184 miles from Tawnytown to Pocomoke City. That's from the top northwestern corner to the southeastern corner of the district. You could do it in about 3 hours and 45 minutes if there was nobody on 695, 97, or 50. So you know the geographic obstacles that we're going to have to overcome. I'm talking too much. Could you ask another question?
Well, do you not think that you were better suited to take on this fight, this race, as mayor than you are as city councilman? Were you not in a better position?
Oh, no. Remember, Salisbury politics, again, being hyper-local. More than anything else in the world, I wanted Jake Day to be the next mayor of Salisbury. He has done that. He is doing an incredible job. I needed to step back after 6 years. And if anyone tells you that being involved in these offices and being involved in public service doesn't have a personal cost, they're lying to you. It has been 4 months of I'm not in charge of the trash cans today, as I have been for the last 6 years. I'm not in charge of the trash trucks. I'm not in charge of code enforcement issues. Right now, I'm a legislator, and I'm having a very, very, very good time doing that. It's an intellectual pursuit, so the idea that it would have been better of your mayor, I didn't come on here, you didn't call me councilman, you called me mayor. So for a lot of people, that's what I'll always be. I know Senator Mathias, who represents the Lower Eastern Shore in the Maryland General Assembly, there are still many people who walk up to him and call him Mr. Mayor, because he'll always be the mayor of Ocean City.
Off camera a bit, we were talking about some of the things going on in the national headlines. Talk to me about, we talked about how you'd handle some of these local issues, or your stance on some of these local issues. What nationally that's going on would you like to be a part of addressing? Where do you stand strong?
Well, what you find is that many times national issues have a local twist to them. You have to do that in the media, either take the local issue and make it connect it to the national, or vice versa. You know, Jeannie Shaheen, the senator from New Hampshire, introduced legislation that will change the way we deal with the heroin epidemic by changing the number of patients that a doctor who sees heroin patients. That number has been limited for the last 20 years, and with the outbreak of the epidemic, that has to be changed. That's one of those things that you can look right here in Wycomico County, right there in Harford County, right there in Carroll County, and look at the number of people who are in this jam, who have this addiction, that are putting their families through hell. And you can see that this is one of those things that actually has a national solution. I would cross-file that bill in the House of Representatives if I were the representative from Maryland's 1st District. So even something like that is very, very important.
As mayor, you never shied away from controversy?
No, I ran the psychotic horse into the burning stable, as I think it was sometimes referred to.
How do you think that impacts this run?
Well, you know, a milquetoast Democrat's not going to do very well here. You're going to have somebody who comes out and really makes a clear and convincing case. There is no one else in this race except Andy Harris that is not for the full legalization of marijuana. Now, you can look at that and you can pull a Nancy Reagan and just say no, or you can realize that you can drop Maryland's crime rate another 30 to 40% by full legalization. You can take Salisbury's crime rates and reduce them even more. I'm not afraid to talk about those things. I'm not gonna walk around. Many times Democrats in this district, I'm a small businessman, I'm a conservative. Everybody's conservative with their money. You're conservative. The people in the studio are conservative with their money because bills have to get paid, and the balance always has to stay, you know, in the black. I don't think that those things are really different from person to person. But, it's what word you're going to hear, what you're going to cover is the word liberal, liberal, liberal. If we could just now, let's just say it 60 times, get it over with, because that's what's going to be the argument. I don't see how you call somebody liberal who's dropped the crime rate by 50% in Salisbury over the last 6 years, left $16 million in surplus, and shown improvements in the health of the Wycomico River for the 3rd straight year. I'm going to get that's progressive, but if he wants to say that's liberal, hey, I'm fine with it. The first woman police chief, the first woman public works director, the first woman code enforcement director. Those are the things that I'm proud of. If he wants to call it that because that's the only way he knows how to campaign, then we'll see if because it has been traditionally a nasty campaign that he has run over the last decade.
Well, whether you call it liberal or progressive, do you think that may work and keep him in office with the electorate?
Well, if you look and see what he did to Mr. Gilchrist almost a decade ago, that hammering, Mr. Gilchrist was too liberal, and then Congressman Cradaville, he was too liberal. Wayne Gilchrist and Frank Cradaville were two of the most conscientious, hardworking legislators that the United States Congress has ever seen. We were lucky to have the two of them. What we have now is a guy who shows up, figures out how to slice the room into 2 parts, make you hate the person on the other side, collect that check, collect the campaign check, and then roll out of here and go back to Baltimore and make his $175,000 a year and do nothing.
But what I'm saying is,
will it work? Only if you let it.
Worked.
Only if you let it. You put the camera in front of him and ask him, why did you vote against the Violence Against Women Act? Put the camera in front of him and say, why did you vote against hurricane relief for the people of Crisfield when Sandy decimated your community when you have paid your federal taxes? If I do it, you get what you want. 2 people battering at one another, yelling at one another, the same old crap that we see on MSNBC and Fox News. You have to go do it because the facts are on your side when you go and put that camera in front of his face. See what kind of answer you get. It'll be a mealy-mouthed, John Birch society, I don't believe in government, liberals are killing us. It'll be the same thing over and over again. But if you don't call it on him and you wait for me to do it, then the story will be I called it on him and it'll be about the fight, not about the facts. I'm depending on you.
You get a sentence to the voters of the 1st district. What is it?
One sentence?
One sentence.
Are you trying to kill me? Really? Are you trying to kill me? One sentence. Can I use a comma or a semicolon?
You can use a comma.
I can use a comma. I'm the better guy because I'm from here and I care. I mean, it's just that simple. It doesn't get any more simple than that. I'm willing to put my nose to the grindstone like I did every day as Salisbury's mayor and look at these problems that we have with the nitrogen and the phosphorus on our farms, with the heroin addiction, with people's health. 55,000 people now have health insurance on Maryland's Eastern Shore that didn't have it before the Affordable Care Act. What I'm worried about is that with Mr. Harris's assault on the Planned Parenthood facility in Easton, that the women of the 1st District, the women who are on this campus, will have to stop by his office before they go to the doctor so that he can tell them what they can and can't do with their body. I will fight to the bitter end to make sure he doesn't get that power over the women in my family, the women in your family, and the women on this campus.
I think that was a few paragraphs, but
I did the one. I thought you wanted me to go on. You didn't say anything. You have to interrupt the politician if you're going to get a word in. Come on.
Thank you so much for
Appreciate it. Thanks so much for the time. Love this plant.